me no mushia bia omo try say omba outsmart ne yonko no tumi anya that coveted win no and e kire nyame boa because of say trophy edaso ninti no e ma match ne a serious match for both teams ni nyina now o share both teams na omo bo 2 matches this season. Barcelona lead by 9 goals to 3 between these two clubs. It's a choice that Barcelona a dominant over Real Madrid. 2 matches in season. Has the Flick come match when with the record say on lose who final be our coachida. Eti echere nyame bo a Real Madrid for no ebetumi breaki that run now has Flick ewom say final bi obebo bia on lose na na motivation back so push Real Madrid players and then say can they stop Barcelona from winning the treble. Now Champions League unimu biom eti untumi stop Barcelona directly. But a quite to stop Barcelona directly in say obetumi shine in the Copa del Rey. Now so Barcelona in the Copa del Rey means say I can't just 2 trophies. Barcelona ain't to me winning that treble no. It's Real Madrid funny into the match with huge motivations. But we say almost stopping Barcelona from getting the treble. But we say munya a revenge after 2 humiliations omanya against my friend Barcelona Football Club and almost winning a trophy because it's almost free in the Champions League you know Barcelona lead by 4 points. It's a china match boss player emube de yepa. Copa del Rey finals no both teams share 7 times, Real Madrid winning 4 times and Barcelona winning 3 times. It's a china Barcelona for be say to me the parity be about between two teams no obia matches are winning in the Copa del Rey final. But boss player Real Madrid go straight into the tactical analysis. It's join you on Facebook no so na bra near analyze the game no. Yeah for previous
Angel
games,
Rock mission.
Yeah for both teams so previous matches are mabo and fan to ho near hesade enoma ebesiako. Now coach bia o wiase bia nim say only Real Madrid eba beboba about 2 things. You keep possession of the ball and also control space. It's the teams in Real Madrid eba beboba keeping possession here about say omu use slow and intricate build up and also using an effective high pressing. It's another sound woman mienu teams use in attempt of keeping possession of the ball. Now, adia ba so omo science say omo control space no. It's by controlling space meaning say the spaces in between the lines and also space now that omo backline echi no omo heso be manage that space no. It's this season most teams omo ball against Real Madrid with a mid and also a low block. So be to manage the space in behind their back line. And adia ba so me say they try and counter press and also stop the transitions now. Real Madrid for a babebono because Real Madrid the team here started transitions from low blocks, started transitions from mid and high blocks today. Real Madrid they are excellent. They have the individual quality to hurt you on transitions. It is some woman anyway and they are not teams in a Barcelona past 4-5 matches no more bon boss player. They keep possession of the ball well. Omo high press in a but omo controlling of space no boss player above from. Eti we Real Madrid near. So watch Barcelona past 4 matches now. You will be very optimistic going into the match with some 4 matches now Barcelona for abono. Eti Real Madrid for no ever try say ombe you see the template from Barcelona past 4 matches no adia heti to my friend no Barcelona Football Club and a kwambe so enombe no back we said they will target the high line of Barcelona. The first match no mobile at the Santiago Bernabeu Emma Barcelona share Real Madrid by 4 goals to 0 no omo targeting high line no but on the day the synchronization of the high line no na a top they were caught offside about 13 times in the match. But number try say ombe timing omo runs ni ye ombe yusu no ombe to media breaking high line no and boss player no ombe na Real Madrid for no ebe yusu they will use deep runs through the back line of Barcelona ombe yusu quick switches at their far side no of Barcelona no matter targeting Barcelona for a narrow back line and Bakun so ombe yusu ni say they will use 2v1s against Barcelona for full back no matter to me targeting that area no full backs ni mienu no matter to me capitalizing on that and also ombe yusu 1v1s with their tricky wingers with Rodrigo on the right and Vinicius on the left trying say ombe to me their breaky to my friend Barcelona. So what Barca ni Celta Vigo ni bia Celta Vigo nya 6 counter attacks editia Barcelona. Celta Vigo for a breaking high line editia Barcelona. Osha Leganés game Nibia. It took a poor pass from a Leganés player and also a last minute intervention from Inigo Martinez and a prevent Leganés for no and taking advantage of the high line. So Osha Mayoka Denibia, you could see that it was just a shoulder pet and a preventing Mayoka for say Oman to me and take no and Fentia Barcelona. It means say high line no in Kofasha see in Kofasha see target in Kofasha see finding ways breaking high line no and Real Madrid are born 2 times and yet here Barcelona no one to me breaking it effectively no third time there try your muno ye and they are breaking that high line no effectively. It's yasha images nibi against Dortmund. You see the narrow back line of Barcelona. Space is not down. No pressure on the ball. Our ball carrier so. It's a Dortmund player no. About to me about passing in behind. And Ahano and Mbappe. Ahano and a brother friend Jude Bellingham. About to me targeting at the team my friend Real Madrid. Young quite the next image 05. You could see the same thing. A narrow back line. She player no far side one. You could see a case of space. It can stretch in the band. Obey to me at the ball no aqua Barcelona for a final third and no penalty box. This kind of thing no obey to me see because they have Kylian Mbappe, they have Jude Bellingham, they will be making these deep runs at their far back line. This is one thing we are Barcelona ni now we ko hebo na expect to say Real Madrid for ne be and minim say Carlo Ancelotti will instruct the players of Real Madrid to say on be sadie no. Second image Yasha against Celta Vigo. A pass in behind the fullback of Team Efreno, Barcelona. Now, answer about to me as a pass in the year. No, you have to penetrate Barcelona block no centrally. That's what to me fun fifi. It will fun fifi. Also find the ways be or the fun fifi. It we expect to say either Ceballos and now Luka Modric Bobia. They have that penetrative ability with their passing in between the lines. It will passing in between the lines and a top notch. So I'm passing between the lines near top notch there. As a Real Madrid for finding numbers in between the lines. And to a real moment to be a see what the Arsenal gamer. Now Real Madrid over 2 players in the half spaces. You could see Real Madrid are not all targeted back line with 5 players. 2 players in the half spaces, 2 players in the wide areas, and a striker. So Real Madrid 4 years had the way. On be breaking Barcelona for high line with ease through the central area because of finding players in between the lines, particularly between Barcelona for midfield line and the defensive line. Space near them 51. Or find the player or they can carry through the back line and also make me about passing and they will be through the back line. This is something a Real Madrid for and they will do it in repeated fashion against Barcelona Football Club. They will use the quick switches. Imagine in between the lines. Imagine somebody you deep runs and Eddie for Barcelona for a high line. And because of say, both players players in between the lines, particularly these 2 players in the half spaces, no, and some Real Madrid advantages. Advantages in the back Real Madrid say. So switch be back the wide area. Meaning said there is a player in the half space or be provided an underlapping run to support the winger. It's my main Atlanta game, any example. In the Atlanta game, omu use wing backs. But when you use wing backs, no use double number 10 or more half space. At the moment Belanova J1, you could see a player running into the half space and not through the half space, or provided that underlapping run to the wing back. So Real Madrid for you see these 2 players in the half space are structure and advantage at the moment. It will create these 2v1s. Against Barcelona for fullback no. That is 1 player in the half space, 1 player in the wide area, a switch in the bar. So we're doing one virgin or writer, or Gia no draw left back no, or draw left back now. Now obedient America for half space in no bobo no atunim. It is a Barcelona arm manage and to me on control space now. No more ball no to set the past 4 games dear boss player as some ever to Barcelona phone. Because Real Madrid and you are 2 times. Nin almost struggle some breaking high line. It's almost a template be almost send who send Barcelona for any noma. It's the 3rd time there. Try some to me noma ye. And no any Real Madrid for no ebay. And boss player because of say also you so wingers in that 1v1s against Barcelona fullbacks in the bed Madintia. Barcelona press from out to in. And they be at the winger, no, they are caught centrally. They are caught inside. And you don't bet to me about fullbacks in terms of defending. And and Alejandro about the absence never hit team a friend Barcelona. So Uko Gerard Martin and Rodrigo 1v1 boss player in the BBC. Gerard Martin and Rodrigo 1v1 in the BBC. All to chino. Not Gerard Martin no crown on sandy pace I'll bet me a recover Saboni Betonechia. At the minute Real Madrid can hold and a target. Me the Bellingham new Rodrigo back Bosso out the right side. Constantly target Gerard Martina, the physical ability, the 1v1s, no, the recovery ones, no, and your top notch to Sabranti friend Alejandro Balde. Vinicius side also on the Kunde Ebabo, or better so be using the qualitative superiority over Abranti friend Jules Kunde. It's Real Madrid back trying normal baby. They'll use deep runs, they'll use quick switches, they'll overload Barcelona fullbacks, no, and they'll rely on their 1v1 abilities against Barcelona for say, on make me their targeted Barcelona for high defensive line now, Omobono, and sub Barcelona, so I'm the ball no call, no ball no come out, or to me defend the transitions, no, said you're defending the year in the past 4 matches, no, it's a better Sunday, and no more be see a call, it's a match Real Madrid for attack, no, and no more be. Nyambo Saturday expect the same things say enwa enebesi e o match nim. Now, yanko Barcelona fonso enoma omoye. In the 2 matches no Real Madrid abon. Almost 9 goals. Obaka say a fluke, but both player enye fluke. Omunim dia noma omoye a, omudi ye tia Carlo Ancelotti a, de bia emo resource. San noma na omoye no ebi ne dia. Yes, the attacking principles are Hans Flick Eyusu Editia Carlo Ancelotti. The first attacking principle is overload the central area. It will attract Real Madrid inside, not their BS space on the outside. That is the first attacking principle. The second attacking principle is use fluid movement. Remember examples of the fluid movements now. Barcelona for the Edia goals, Edia Real Madrid. These fluid movements are 2 counter movements and double movements. And then almost starts here. Obey important figure at the Barcelona Football Club. Counter movements and a double movement. And then the next one, no, and so Barcelona creating artificial transitions. Artificial transitions. There will be some off air artificial transitions. There were the normal transitions, that is the counter attacks. No? These counter attacks no, created from a turnover. Opponents in a crab ball, or lose ball and walk upon a counter. But with the artificial transitions, we now crab ball and now be created transitions. No? And these are the things that Barcelona educated Real Madrid. These 2 matches now on Mabono. They overload the central area. Omu use fluid movement, that is the counter movement and the double movements, and Omu create constant artificial transitions. Now, you share images in Indian church and no more be antiase. Mami create scenario where our utim ne hade. Me use 3-2-5. U use 4-4-2 and a dear defender. So me use 3-2-5 now mean is me when nipa 4 and a 1-5-4. So I use 4-4-2 now mean is when nipa 2. O double pivot nipa 2 per and 1-5-4. It may overload 4v2. It is how try to over prevent that overload. No? So person preventing that overload. Now mean is u2 na a 4-4 ne anim no. Oba mama redraw. Send a bay on ababa ka opponents no a pivot no. It will 2 no. Ababa ka opponents ni 2 na 1-5 no. Na be 4v4. That is one scenario. And now say wingers na omo phone ntantan wa hono obama ba centrally narrow say na be yon betumi prevent that overload na e won finfin no eti Real Madrid for no mu Barcelona be the first problem they encounter no there is a 4v2 overload in their midfield. Carlo Ancelotti pesa kan front line e boa prevent that overload. So the front line into me one wingers na e wo ntantan wa hono etumi ban finfin no mo stop that overload. But and at the aquadro of Real Madrid for front line ever into the picture debia M1 omono. Mamemo first example against Atletico Madrid. 05 kuanim near picture no. You could see Rodrigo all stepping out from the midfield line. Emma Tuameni who no set Tuameni and cover Rodrigo ehono. Sa uye say etia Barcelona meaning say you udiem no ye pulling no afrin finfin ye pulling the finfin central area hono obi betumi age ball no, and this is the problem constantly eto team a friend Real Madrid. So this is their 4-4-2. Opponent ni be use 3-2-5. Ye overloading or midfield front line as or boy no prevent sa overload no omon prevent it. And when guys no so you aggressive in terms of say almost step up for your move 5 connect picture na here there you will see Chouameni offering in 50 akọ cover Rodrigo Dabreho. This is a problem at Real Madrid the phone ewum. And so we say the team Barcelona debia udiyam no me say you pulling up free central area giving space at the central area ho at the Barcelona players no. Etiyahwe Super Cup ni de na AC. 05 yanko anim. 3-2-5 from Barcelona. You can see the box midfield ewon finfio. But boss player enhwe image yi din. And him fan of Vinicius wo. Vinicius akọ kem. It is a say Camavinga na ese ehwe Gavi. It is a Camavinga debia ye pulling Camavinga free finfio. Meaning say Lewandowski betumi drop it aba beji ball with ease. This is the problem at Debiana Carlo Ancelotti Okomu in the first leg. In the second leg, on says we use 4-4-2 now M1. It was not so bad 4-2-3-1. Said about Bellingham mum, ebe jinan fifu. No to me shadow Barcelona 4 pivots no, but Debiano no so Bellingham no hano because on to me tracking the pamienu. Now, Hans Flick won't say Carlo Ancelotti super so or preventive overload now. No so a slight tweak be. Na slide tweak no instead of say Barcelona pivot for no ebe gina on the same horizontal line no or stagger on line no eti ba ko gina na ba ko gina nanim and Pedri na tire surgery no eti o preventing overload no na Hans Flick so try so no so buy no ma bi e dey cause overload no eti so person prevent say Barcelona for pivot no entumi nya ball no entumi cause overload na was no problem. No wa yi Pedri no e dey abegina Casado no anim and Frankie de Jong anim no pushing in between your midfield line and your back line na creating more overload e won finfio. This is a problem at Real Madrid for nikom. It is this central overload na e ya Barcelona for ne ye no e hurt my friend Real Madrid ye pa and no share image na e na wo hon. Wa wo sa Bellingham or Sado Abrante friend no Casado. Ba hwe ba bia Pedri gina Pedri ejina Casado anim. That is a staggered defensive line and a pivot line. Send a bema extra option, extra passing option, and extra player in between the lines for team and friend Barcelona. Now I say Real Madrid for extra chani bibia. It's now Rafinha ba insider, Lucas Vazquez Heno, Valverde Heno, and a Pedri asabe kaho. And now Camavinga social Gavi no so ya dragging. And Lewandowski so constantly all dropping the and fifi. It is the overload in the midfield area. No, Madrid ain't to me dealing with that overload. Nyambo echina Hans Flick basa ye no. Sa overload no besa to so because any constant na oyediti teams no. Now yamra the fluid movement. Aha, and a Barcelona phone the bubu Real Madrid for no kra. Me say aha, and a Barcelona phone the bubu Real Madrid for no kra. More example against Osasuna, Barcelona and Osasuna. Dani Olmo nie. Dani Olmo ebe double movement. And in the double movement, no obane nim, oria no obanechi. It will be ankai Vinicius, there or the Kim Min-jae in the Champions League. No. That is what we call a double movement. O drag midfield and the ban defender and the ban nima. Na the Americano akofanechi and Dani Olmo yebi against Osasuna and result to in a penalty. Now, you check counter movement, no. Counter movement, no. Ebina eda Facebook no so. A simple counter movement. Adi abe to me a picture. So we share Facebook na. Says a left winger no. Drag fullback ni the back insider. Na left back ni the Mikako faster space na. Fullback ni eja ohon. Eti Rafinha. Sa o drag fullback no. Lucas Vazquez the back insider. Obo sa Alejandro Balde the America. Ako faster space na Lucas Vazquez eja no hono. And these counter movements and double movements and no and Barcelona for no e di break it ma your friend Real Madrid for a 4-4-2 no. My first example, the first goal na Barcelona for say in the Super Copa no. Barcelona for omu usual 3-2-5 na overloading the midfield. Pedri any Abrante friend no Casado is target. Yesha baby a counter movement in ebe fraba. Lewandowski be drop it or drop ya obe pulling Rudiger along. Lami Yama be wuse. Lewandowski a drop ya or pulling Rudiger. And the SM America kokoshawo. The inside diagonal pass by na and Lewandowski a bobo ni tu Lami Yama. That is the first goal. Barcelona for in the Super Copa. That is using an inside diagonal and also counter movement. This is the fluid movement. Now, Real Madrid phoning to me so much Barcelona now. First example. I don't know. Second example. The first goal in the league. Abrana Barcelona for Real Madrid 4-0. The same counter movement. Pedri and Rafinha. Ebe pulling the two center backs of Real Madrid. That is Rudiger and Militao. Lewandowski be say, omo puli omo friwadia, mami family kan konko foul and of foul hona and a casado ball no editu ni muman. Second example of the counter movement. Yankwa third example 05. Third example no see the second goal now Barcelona for SCDT Real Madrid for no. Abraje friend Rafinha ebe puli Lucas Vazquez e dey inside. Space better ho. Bade be who say so on the first space. A pass from Frankie de Jong to Bade into space because of that counter movement now my no. Oma generated that space. Bade be cross e dey man Lewandowski. A simple header from Lewandowski was say. At distance now Barcelona for no. This counter movement, this midfield overload no. A hati my friend Real Madrid the power and young watch na and one Barcelona fun bay because it has become part of the attacking principle if we say Hansi Flick and not that Barcelona force low block or to me break it down low block no because they are no more static in their movements but rather they are fluid. Their fluidity it stems from the counter movements and also their double movements and play about question on who chilling ye. The who chilling ye. So money now kasa Rahul Asensio because Asensio normally he is caught ball watching. Obet me a ball na the ball na tia against Barcelona attacking and you can say yes sir. Stay in your position. Send a beya yan drag you out of position, yan create space and will be mammy firm. And you no common center backs in Nabekasa. Send a beya bet me stay in the original position. No more prevent to say yan drag you all over the pitch and create space and form a Barcelona for runners and more mammy firm. But attacking Umbelusu key two key elements. Lewandowski, Alejandro Balde. Alejandro Balde, because of say only to me holding weight no. Progressive carries on a wall. Left back our dribble pie in La Liga on a wall. You are losing this kind of player. Lewandowski, a player but you are dropping the other deep. Ababa in the build up. A player and understanding with the front line was through. So we drop here. As I'm about passing at the show. These two elements every free Barcelona team. Ferran Torres any intelligence like Lewandowski in terms of dropping for the build up. And Gerard Martin and the progressive abilities of Abrante's friend Balde. And these two players will be missing. Bebesha Choir has a flick ever faso and the tears out to Krumi Nuna or Mumisi with him. And lastly, boss player the artificial transitions. Oh yeah, artificial transitions are also to me creative space. It will shape deserve the build up will be no issue for to no creative space behind opponent midfield line and no enhance flick a you share image Barcelona ye build up no the two pivots no they are attracting Real Madrid for pivots no it will shape Real Madrid for midfield line here space kakra da ho but Barcelona enim no ko be na do so be use third man combination but under Hansi Flick no on person be yes sir it do any say either an inside diagonal pass and now a long diagonal pass. It will be a center backs no, and also the full backs normal but long diagonal be up from 50. It is an image way. Or not dragging Real Madrid from midfield line no. Space ya bedo mechi. Kubasi je ball na no ball inside diagonal. Lewandowski drop it or je ball na another command Jules Koundé. Barcelona creating artificial transition. It when we are creating transitioner abra onu ne kura ball no. And yes, from a turnover. Me say counter attack, normal counter attack. Ne say what creates that space from a turnover. Opponent in a crab ball, or lose ball and a carbon counter attack. But with the artificial transition, when a crab ball no now will say what counter attack. And no any has a flick a year. It's Yanko first classico no. Barcelona for 2 goals no almost say Emma near 4 no. Shalami Yama go no. Near artificial transition. A long ball. at the Branty a friend Lewandowski or Pemiana Rafinha fire na space the hall and on passma la miyama. Shall another example than Omo J Bono and or done in the Maka or done in the Maka now there's a 4v3 for Barcelona artificial transition. Yeah, quite the 5th goal now Barcelona say in the Super Copa no, you could see the same thing. Omo passable on Alejandro Bar the J Bona and no ball inside the Agun the Mar Casado ko botu Rafinha ho artificial transition. It is a Barcelona phenomenon Real Madrid for any bar. These simple elements now no more and young watch now on Besaye. A dear Real Madrid bet to me they are solving say they either improve their pressing or they shouldn't press. And 2, they should be disciplined in their out of possession block. So man need discipline. No matter could defense poorly in these 2 matches there. Barcelona for no able to win the match no. But boss play a match in there.
Okay, governor.
So Barcelona defended the same way or defending the past 4 matches there. Moi. But me tepedia on some big matches there I'm in Barcelona. So me cast Barcelona be win. But I better say EBCI. Final the final. But boss player say
governor
be able to be a quick. That's the boss player.
Well, been about taxes ni JJ.